Alright, welcome to High Style Sundays. We're here today with DJ Sun, spun by Sun. It's Baltimore's High Style Sundays. What's going on, man? Appreciate you coming.
Yo, thanks for having me. Chilling. You know.
Alright, so first of all, tell everybody where you're from.
From Baltimore, I grew up over east by Patterson Park. Moved up northwest in high school to like Mount Washington, Pimlico area. And I went to BSA, Baltimore School for the Arts, for high school. Then I went to Philly for a little while, and that's where I started like DJing professionally and getting out there more.
So what was it like growing up in Baltimore?
I loved it. You know, I think that there's a lot of pros and cons to this city, and I think that leaving Baltimore gave me the space to really acknowledge the things that I love most about this city. And I know that that's kind of crazy to say, but like, you know, I don't know, like, there's a lot of, there's a lot of crime in this city, it's a hectic city, you know, and I don't want to put that in too much of a negative light, because ultimately I'm appreciative that this city, I don't know, I feel like growing up here made me prepared for a lot of things, you know, and I've never really felt uncomfortable in a lot of other places, you know, and this place taught me how to move respectfully, you know.
So is there any aspect of your childhood that, like, because you said a lot about being in Baltimore, is there any aspect of actually living there that stays with you today that maybe helps you keep going?
Every day. I mean, I don't know if I can put it into words, but I don't know, the passion I have for music really started here. The way I interact with people and the way I, like, you know, I don't know, something about the culture in Baltimore that's different from everywhere else. And this is something I was telling my friend the other day, because, you know, I thought that for a while, but I'm from here, so I thought I was biased. But I have my friends pull up from other places, from Philly, from New York, from LA, from wherever, from Chicago. And, you know, they always, at the end of, you know, a weekend that they come to hang, they always let me know, they're like, yo, something about Baltimore, you know what I mean? And I was talking to my friend, and he said the same thing. He's like, my friends feel the same way. And I think that there's an energy in this city, and I've tried to analyze it and figure out why, you know. But I'm limited by my perspectives, you know. But ultimately, you know, whatever the reason is, this city has a really, really genuine and potent energy, and that's something that ultimately gives me confidence everywhere I go. Like, at the end of the day, like, you know.
So DJ Sun, but you're known mostly by Spun by Sun. How'd you come up with that name?
So my name's Jason. My real name's Jason, and I was being slick. And if you make the D silent on DJ Sun, it's just Jason. But you know, I couldn't be anybody's son, so I had to pick the Sun, you know.
Okay. S-U-N.
Right. So D, Jason. You know.
And you talk about you moved around a lot. So did moving around impact like where you wanted to go in life?
I think so. My parents are they have freelance jobs as well, so that kind of was part of the reason why we moved, and that lifestyle spoke to me early. And I think that just in general, whether it was moving or just traveling or just going to somewhere for the weekend or something like that, just always gave me a bigger picture perspective on everything. But it's also, I don't know, like, especially with this music stuff, you travel and you hear different grooves, and, you know, we got Baltimore Club here, Philly got their own spin on that, Jersey has their own spin on that, then they got two-step in London, then they got juke and footwork in Chicago, Baile Funk, Favela Funk in Brazil, and it's really just all of these different places takes on, you know, club music as we know it, you know what I mean? But so I don't know, like every time I travel, that's one of the most inspiring things to me, and it's always like kind of giving me info on where I need to go.
Where's your favorite place that you've traveled and DJ'd at, actually?
Damn. I'll say my best gigs, honestly, to this date have been in Baltimore and Philly, and that's where most of my gigs have been. So I guess that would make sense. But I had a gig in LA one time. Like it was one of the last gigs I had right before the shutdown. Shout out to my homie Alex Dale out there, and I just, it's some artist DJ connection thing. You just hit your homie up. You say, hey, I'm gonna be in LA this weekend. Could I come spin at your residency or something that you got going on? And he, he came through, and he's a good homie, so he looked out. And it was just such a random gig, and it just worked so smoothly, which is kind of unheard of in this industry, that it was just like, it felt just so good to, and also being on the other side of the country and like people really fucking with the stuff I was playing. I played a lot of Baltimore club, a lot of like disco and like old school shit that I like, and a lot of just East Coast hip hop and stuff, and they were really like, they felt like it was so fresh out there compared to what the DJs out there were spinning. So it was just like a really kind of a gratifying experience,
So what's your inspiration behind when you're putting your mixes together?
Setting, honestly, like, and the DJs watching this will know what I'm talking about, and the non-DJs always kind of think that this is a little ridiculous, but the best sets are unplanned, and when you're doing like a radio set, or over the last few years, like, or the last year, a lot of live streams and stuff, those are really difficult to kind of plan for, because you don't know who the fuck is watching, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you kind of got to sink your teeth into your taste in those situations and just play the stuff that you like, make sure the transitions are cold, and hope for the best. But if you're out, and my best sets have definitely been live, you just gotta, like, they say you gotta have 1 foot on the dance floor and 1 foot in the booth. And what that means is you just gotta be in the moment with the party. If you're doing what you rehearsed at home and you're not even looking up, you don't know who's gonna be there, you don't know anything. So they could not even be feeling you at all, and you don't even know. So you really gotta, like, just, throw out bait and see if it catches, and then once it does, you can take it where you want, but you gotta freestyle, so.
So you play most of it by ear then?
Yeah, so I'd say the crowd is what inspires me to play what,
So, coming from Baltimore, you've played in DC, you've played in Philly. What's the difference between the vibe of the crowd in each city?
That's a great question. All right, so I don't want to speak too much on DC because I haven't spun there a whole lot, but from what I've heard and from my experience, it's a little stiff out there, and I'm always hesitant to say that crowds are stiff because it's a DJ's job to make people loose. So you can't blame the crowd for being stiff, if you know what I'm saying. But there are a lot of great DJs out in DC, but I know that DC has a lot of, I don't know, I'm sure it depends on where you're at in DC. That's what I'll say. And then for Philly and Baltimore, honestly, Philly and Baltimore have so much in common when it comes to this party and this music culture. Sweat. I've seen the best dance floors in both of these cities, compared to New York, compared to a lot of these key spots that are always mentioned. People don't mention Baltimore and Philly enough because, like, and these are the types of events, and you know what I'm talking about because you're from here, where you walk in and the walls are sweating, you know what I mean, and there's butt flying everywhere, you know what I mean, and it's just like everybody's on the same page in those moments, you know what I mean, and that's when the parties really go stupid. All the songs are being played like, 10 BPM faster than they were put out, you know what I mean, and nobody cares because everybody's just going, you know what I mean. So yeah, but yeah, that's what I'll say.
All right. So you get to, I know you get to like hear a bunch of different artists, and especially coming from Baltimore, Baltimore doesn't get the same limelight as major cities.
Right.
So what do you think is preventing Baltimore from reaching that level?
Yeah, it's a couple things, and I think a lot of it has to do with just like straight up tangible infrastructure. Something I always point to is that Baltimore doesn't have any Live Nation venues. And what that means is, so we got Silver Spring, there's a Fillmore in Silver Spring, then there's the Queen in Delaware, and that's like the only Live Nation's close venues close to here. And what people may or may not know is that in the music industry today, Live Nation, they bought Ticketmaster back in the day. So they book the shows, own the venues, and sell the tickets. I'm gonna let the court decide if that's a monopoly, but they have a lot of power. So basically, that's why your favorite artist doesn't come to Baltimore, because there's no one at their company booking them for, you know what I mean? They're only gonna book them, you know, for the major artists are all got deals with Live Nation, right? So they're not gonna send them to a soundstage, you know what I mean? Because they don't gotta deal with them. You know what I mean? So that's why they go from DC to Philly every time. And the issue with that is now all of the artists here, because look, in New York, in LA, and Philly, and I've seen this, and all the young cats out there, I see this every day. Somebody works hard at their craft for a couple years, does their thing, stays consistent, they're opening for artists in their city. You know what I mean? Roddy Ricch comes through, and you got the brand for it, and you know the people, and you've been around enough, damn straight you're gonna get the call to open up in front of Roddy Ricch's crowd and do a 15-minute set. Right. And that's just completely cut off for Baltimore artists. So there's a lot of situations like that, you know, and there's a lot of different, you know, that's just talking about the live world, you know what I mean? There's also the streaming world and the radio world and all these different platforms for music. And pretty much all of them have something like that in Baltimore, where people just, for whatever reason, kind of, you know, have overlooked it, which is the reason why, like, it's so crazy right now in Baltimore, because literally everybody started to peep that, and now everybody's literally building the infrastructure as we go. You know what I mean? So it's like the people who have been like, I'm not gonna go to LA, I'm not gonna go to New York, I'm gonna stay in Baltimore because I love it here, I gotta, you know, raise my city up. People are starting to realize, like, you know, the ceiling is not that high here. So you get there and then you gotta build the next step, you know, and it's crazy, but it's also like, it's just dumb beautiful, you know?
So, are there any specific artists you've worked with closely?
Yeah. So, like I said, I went to BSA, so I've always been like, all my homies have always been like musicians and, you know, other artist types. So even to this day, like, most of my friends, like I got my DJ crews, you know, I got my people that I hang out in that world, but most of my like lifelong friends and stuff are mostly artists, writers, instrumentalists, stuff like that. And you know, as a DJ, you know, I got a couple artists, Apollo, who's been in the city for a minute, Good Boy, K. Woods, Nay, who's coming up right now, a couple others, Ron Wave, you know, I got some people who I'm kind of like very closely affiliated with, you know. All their dates are, you know, they got a show. I know I'm putting that on my calendar to DJ for them, keeping that clear for them. And I've had situations where I'll like work closely with an artist like that, other than that, but like there's, you know, the homies that I'm just like, it's a given, you know. And same with production, you know. I produce and I mix and master as well, so.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that side. Like, what's the difference you see when you're DJing versus when you're actually producing?
Yeah,
mixing?
It's crazy because it's like, it's completely different acts, you know. It's completely different skill bases, different actions. One is sitting in a room, you know what I mean, by yourself for hours, you know, with headphones on, whatever, and one is like, you know, DJing's a whole nother thing, you know. But they inform each other because it's the same end goal, you know what I mean. You want it to sound good, right? That's the end goal. So it's crazy because I started DJing like for fun in like middle school, and I started producing for fun in high school. But they've really just like informed each other, you know. So when I'm producing music, all the time I'm thinking about what works in the crowds, what works when I'm listening to other people's tracks, you know, from a DJ's perspective, structure-wise, frequency-wise, all that stuff, and then vice versa. You know, for mixing and mastering, it's like I was talking to my friend that designs clothes the other day, and this is a crazy like parallel I found. He was really hype about getting a sewing machine, you know, and he's been designing clothes for a minute, you know. He started with, you know, repurposing vintage stuff, and then he started like making his own stuff, and now he's starting to get into sewing and like really like putting his own pieces together. and it occurred to me that that's like, you know, you're getting closer to like the microscopic part of it, closer to the chemistry part, you know what I mean? So like, as a DJ, you're zoomed out. All you can do is decide where the songs come in and how they come out and, you know, what they're mixed with. When you're producing, you can actually build the song up. And then mixing, that's when you're like, you know, you got the microscope and you're looking at the echo right after the snare. You know what I mean? And you're thinking about all those little details of all these little sounds in this overall song, you know what I mean? And then you zoom back out for mastering and tie that all back together. So it's kind of crazy. It's just kind of like, it gives you more control, I feel like, you know, like when you know, to all the DJs, I'd suggest you start checking out production. To all the producers, definitely get into mixing and mastering and DJing, because it only makes you better on both sides, for real.
So, when you talk to us about any challenges you may have faced throughout your career, and you know how you overcame it and got to, you know, where you are now.
Yeah. Shit. You know, it's crazy. I'm very grateful. You know, I'm very grateful because I feel like a lot of people have shown me some crazy support from the jump with this shit, and I have some of the same people, you know, helping me out and supporting me that I had around, you know, from the first days in Philly when I started being professional, and even from before that, you know, before I was even called DJ Son type shit. But at the end of the day, you know, as you grow as an artist, there's something we all face. There's so many things that we all face. You know, I remember when I first started out, like, you would get gigs where they'd want you to, you know, just not knowing the industry and not knowing how things work, so getting, mistreated, you know what I mean? People would book me and want me to sell their tickets for them. Like, it would be a promoter who had a quota. They got to sell an amount of tickets, and instead of selling them, they just book a DJ and say, hey, you know, I was like 21 a month after turning 21 or something, they hit me up. Yeah, I want to play that gorgeous ass club. Sure, I'll sell you tickets, you know what I mean? So like, you know, I learned a lot from those gigs, but at the same time, I felt bad that I was trying to, you know, asking my homies if they want to buy these outrageously priced tickets to come see some, you know, rapper stand at a club and not even perform or something, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, shout out to the homies, you know what I mean? Because they were hype about it and they looked out, but I had to, you know, that was something I had to learn, you know what I mean? And that's, the lesson there is that, like, that's what I tell people, like, when you go to your shows, you want to see as many strangers as possible, you know what I mean? Because your homies are going to support you regardless, but like, when shit really starts to move, that's when, you know, you see people you don't know and stuff. So as far as like, you know, I don't know, that's an issue too, like learning how to have the leverage, you know, and hit up a venue and be able to guarantee that you're going to sell that room out and fill it up. Because that's when you can really start to make, you know, moves, because you have that leverage and that consistency and figuring out how to, you know, what crowds you're trying to attract to. Because a lot of people, you know, will promote to a crowd that they don't even spin the type of music they like, you know what I mean? So it's some stuff to navigate there, you know. I don't know, always learning, you know, always learning.
So what advice, saying that, what advice would you give to like upcoming DJs, producers, any, you know, any artists in general, really?
I'd say the best advice is, and this is, you know, it's corny, people say it all the time, but show up. Literally, I can't tell you how many gigs I've gotten or connections I've gotten or residencies I've gotten. I can't tell you how much money has been put in my pocket because I showed up, you know, because literally I saw, you know, you see a party or some DJs that you really like or some artists that you really want to work with, go support them. Go show up to their shows, let them know that you fucking with them, you know what I mean? You don't gotta be corny about it, just salute them, you know what I mean? That's why they're doing this shit. You don't gotta be weird at a party, you just say, yo, I fuck with your shit, you know what I mean? Hit them up on the gram, be like, I do this shit too, you know what I mean? And let it be, you know what I mean? You don't gotta say, I wanna work, whatever, you know what I mean? Just literally, it's the law of attraction, and that shit don't work unless you leave your house, you know what I mean? And if you know, the fact is, there's people on your block, there's people in your neighborhood, there's people in your city that got the same vision, but you'll never know, you know what I mean? And they're trying to help you out. too. You know what I mean? And you're gonna help them out just by, linking. So it's like, I don't know, show up, literally. You know what I mean? Yeah.
All right. So, is there any you have any future projects or anything people should look out for coming up?
Man, yeah, a whole lot of stuff. I got a remix project with my homie Good Boy, who's a mad talented producer in the city. He Miss Cam got a song with a couple legends. I'll let y'all go check that out and find it for yourself. But Fuck That Checkup. It's produced by my homie Good Boy. He's produced a lot of good shit for a lot of people in the city. But anyway, we're putting out a remix project, just like fun edits that for DJs mostly and mashups and stuff. We got a Cha-Cha Slide remix on there. It's kind of banging. And that's coming out like first week of July through Would You Vibe With Me Records, which is a shout out to Kaliko. He does really good stuff. I got some singles of my own I'm putting out soon, which I'm really excited about because I haven't done that in a minute. So be on the lookout for that. But in general, really, I'm just focusing on making sure that it's a crazy summer in Baltimore because, we outside again safely, and there's spots popping up left and right. So, hit me on the gram if you're trying to come party, come dance, you know what I mean? Check out the flyers because there's going to be a lot of good stuff this summer.
Yes, sir. Any last shout-outs, anybody?
Shout out to everybody putting Baltimore on right now. Everybody who's, expanding the movement and everybody who's doing it because they love it. You know what I mean? And of course, shout out to my homies and shout out to family. Much love. Thank y'all for having me.
Of course. Shout out to Boca.
Sure.
It's Hostile Sundays. We got DJ Sun, Spun by Sun. Tune in.
All you gotta say is, go.